Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because you know consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kunlo-Sitep, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my awesome co-host, Mina Kunlo-Sitep. Hey, Mina.
Hey, Jacqueline.
All right. So we have a super fun episode coming for all of you right now. It is fun. It is a friend of ours, and it's just going to be, as I'd like to say, hilarious, because I think the three of us think that we are probably some of the funniest people ever. Mm-hmm. Just kidding. Okay. So anyways, we are excited. But not. We're excited to bring on Lindsey Schwartz. She is the founder of Powerhouse Women and the Powerhouse Women podcast, and she's also an author. She is a future golden granny. For those of you in Arizona, you know what we're talking about, and a stand-up closet comedian. So welcome to the podcast, Lindsey.
We wrote that bio just for you guys, because I'm actually podcasting from my closet, which is very funny.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're also hilarious
and I'm
from
very,
your closet.
Very hilarious.
Yes. We're really building up this episode. So Lindsey, tell our audience, if they don't know you already, what you do and how you support your community.
Yes. So I am just like all of you. At some point, I woke up and realized, wow, I'm meant for more. I really am meant to do big things in this world. And I always just had that feeling inside of me. My first foray into entrepreneurship was actually in health and wellness. And what I saw happening over and over again is women in my life who would comment on, gosh, it's so cool what you've done. You know, we see the glamorized side of entrepreneurship, which just looked really fun and free. And in the next breath, they would tell me about a big idea they had or a dream to work for themselves or create a passion project, but also why they weren't ready or why they didn't know enough or why they felt like they weren't the one. And every time it had me step back and go, wait a minute, did no one tell you? That's how we all feel every day. And that's how you know you're going in the right direction. So it inspired me to write the book, Powerhouse Woman, to really tell that side of the story and share through my own journey of figuring it out and doing it really messy and even not being really qualified to be an author. I'd never written anything more than this cute little blog I had for 3 years. And I always love to share with people that I published one article per year because I was so afraid to put myself out there. And this really led to what now has become a live event. We have an online community, mentorship resources, and really all around this idea that we're not meant to do business or life alone. And that's why I love what you stand for, is to realize that, you know, there's someone else out there who's figured it out. and who, number one, can probably give you at least a couple of resources and steps. But the biggest thing I think I needed, and I still need at this stage of entrepreneurship, is to know that I'm not alone. Like some of these crazy things you experience or fears that come up, some, other people in your life probably don't understand it. My mom has no idea what I do for a living, and she's so supportive, right? But I think when we step out and when we say, I'm going to be bold, I'm going to create this big idea that I know I'm meant to do, you should know that it's not supposed to be done alone. You're supposed to surround yourself with others who can either support you, mentor you, or just make you feel like you're not a crazy person on days that you're sure you are.
I love that so much. I mean, when we first met you, we met you actually at the Lite Pink dinner in person. And it was so amazing. We could tell instantly what a connector you are in your community and just, really aligned with us. I think that when you start to find your community, I think all of us, when we're first starting, we get so scared to repel people. And I think that that's really hard. Even, we have some people in our community that say, I don't want to email out too much because I don't want to annoy people, and I think that's with all of us. But the thing is that, I think a good gauge, just going off of what we talked about when we first started, how we're clearly very funny, is that your community ends up being the people that get your humor.
Yes.
They start to understand you more and they kind of are on board for that journey. So I think that this is such a great episode to talk about because we all get this way and we always repeat it in our heads. That self-doubt always creeps in no matter what level you are at, or even if you are surrounded by a support system, it gets easier and easier, but that doesn't mean that it completely dissolves either. So I love that we're talking about this.
And I think what I wish someone would have told me, number one, there's no point that you get to where you don't feel imposter syndrome, fear. It actually grows in proportion with how big your goal is that you're currently chasing. So the fear has actually gotten greater, or the mental blocks, but I now know myself to be someone who can overcome them, who can grow through them, but also that your community needs deepen as you move forward too. There's, I'm sure at the level of business you two have grown to, there's just fewer people who understand the unique challenges of being at this stage of business. So there's no point that I've found yet where we don't need community.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit more about how you do, what is it that how do you serve your community, and how do you think that could pertain to, I know you do have product people in your community. So what do they take away from your community and what you offer?
Yeah. Well, of course, my jokes, they can, use them as their own. That is how I find my people, is the ones who laugh at the jokes. But, we've realized that there are kind of these critical points along the entrepreneurship journey. So we have this beautiful membership community where when you're brand new and really up until any stage that you just are really wanting to stay plugged in, it's just a place where you can connect on a weekly basis with others who are in this journey with you. I think that's such the critical stage. So for those who are newer in their business journey, no matter what kind of business, it's really important to remember that your big idea is easiest to kill when it's in seed form, when it's just the tiny seed of an idea and you start sharing it with people who don't get it and they try to talk you out of it unintentionally. So it's really important that you nurture that idea by being in community with others who are like, oh, that's not crazy. No, actually you could do X, Y, and Z. And wouldn't it be cool if we collaborated? And have you thought of doing this? It starts to water the seed of that idea. And then as you go further along, and I know you have amazing resources for your community too, having a step-by-step plan to follow. I mean, a lot of us have figured a lot out via Google, right? And being students of Google University. But also, if there's someone out there who's done it, why wouldn't you take their course or, step into their framework? And there's literally no one better for helping someone build a product-based business than what you two have created. We have our own version that's more, it's called Six Figure School. It's kind of more general entrepreneurship, how to really create that business plan that starts to monetize and get off the ground. And then a mastermind and different communities just like you've created, because it's really important, I think, for people to realize there's different different needs at different stages of entrepreneurship. So we kind of tie all that together with a bow with this amazing live event. You both will have to come. Lots of jokes. I can promise lots of jokes at the Powerhouse Women event. And, really just under that theme that we're just really not meant to do it all alone. And it's been a really, really cool ride.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say Mina and I both built six-figure businesses really on our own without community. And I think a few years into our businesses, we were searching for other people, which is how we actually met, through a podcast and through like a six-figure women entrepreneur group. But then when we spoke the love language of product, that's when we're like, ooh, oh yeah. Like, will you get married and become my business partner, my life partner forever? Forever. No. So, I think it is important. And I operated my business for 10 and a half years completely on my own. I started it, when I was 26. And that was, when I first started my business, I was telling people they needed to buy websites. So, and this is like pre, social media for use in business and stuff like that. So absolutely, there were not these groups of women coming together and supporting each other to build six figures. And what's been beautiful, and I know a lot of our community wants to get to their first six figures. And then I think the really cool thing too now is that women are talking about getting their first seven figures and then getting their first eight figures. Now, listen, those of you out there listening, some people are like, mind blown. But then as you grow and you scale and you surround yourself with other people shooting for the same big, as we call like audacious dreams, you start to see what's possible. And that other people, like you said, they're not squashing or like pulling that seed out and like tossing it, but they're watering and be like, yeah, let's go. Like, let's see what's possible. Which is, I think, what we love so much about the community that you've built. One thing we talked about that you said that you're really working on a lot right now with your community is the idea of how to maximize a smaller audience. So I know a lot of you out there that are listening, the drive is always like, how do I get more followers on, social media? Like, how do I grow my business without paying for ads? And what have you all been talking about in terms of maximizing that smaller audience and growing your business?
I love talking about this so much. And here's what I want my fellow smallish audience members to know is I am so grateful that that was my story, because now I can tell, no one can tell me their audience is too small for them to be successful. I do, however, think we need to think differently. When you have a smaller audience, yes, the goal is always to grow it, but there's a different way. And there's actually a very big competitive advantage to having a smaller, more intimate community at first, because you can do things that having a larger audience is a little bit harder to do, like having that one-on-one, really intimate feeling connection with the people who are a part of your world. But it starts really, I think it starts with, and when I look at what helped us grow organically to multiple six figures before we ever spent a single dollar on a Facebook ad, is understanding that there is a difference between an audience and a community. If you take one thing away from this podcast, it's this mental shift that I think can help you start to see the beauty in the community, whatever size it is that you have. So an audience, if you think about it, just like I was telling the ladies, my secret dream is to do a stand-up comedy routine that I'm sure only one person will come to.
No,
if you think of an audience, two of us. That's right. Okay, I'll save two chairs, front row just for you. And if you think of an audience, that's the visual I get, is someone on a stage with a microphone. All the attention is funneling toward that one person. In our businesses, it's kind of asking ourselves the question, how do I get more people to follow me, want to know what I'm doing? And don't get me wrong, we want more people to know what you're doing. That's a good thing. But it shifts, and I think it actually expands and becomes more powerful when we shift the mindset to audience building, to community building, which I think is going a level deeper and saying, okay, now that these people are paying attention, how can I get more people to connect with each other? How can I make my product, in this case, since we're talking to product bosses, how can my product become this thing that unifies people? How can it be something that if I see another woman who's carrying that handbag that I make or wearing that apparel, what do I automatically know about her? And how can that become a connection point around something that we both believe or we both want to embody? And when you think about your brand like that, now it almost doesn't matter as much how many people are following you, because if you can create your product as the centerpiece for a community, it has people naturally want to invite others who are like them to check out your page, to be involved with what you're doing. And from the beginning, number one, I think I'm a naturally excited person, meaning I will find joy in the smallest of things in life. And I've used that. We can talk a little bit about how to use that in your launch strategies. But the second piece, and really what I want you to take away from this, is understanding that even if it's 100 people following you, they probably all know 5 or 6 or 7 people who have similar interests and beliefs and values as them. How can you make your brand the central hub where they know they can find other people who think like them and believe what they do? And you automatically get that exponential growth factor when you start to treat your brand as that, the hub for a really beautiful community that's built around something that you want to unify people around.
I love that. That is so powerful because, whether we realize it or not, it is true. I mean, usually we accidentally land in our group of people. Like when you have small children, you land in a group of fellow moms that have kids the same age. Sometimes it starts with perhaps, your sisters or siblings, the ones that you grew up with, and then it moves out to whatever season of life you're in, as you're going through life. So I love that because it is true. We definitely know 5 people, which is another secret too, right? Because as long as you up level those 5 people every time, you're growing constantly because you become an average of those 5 people. So I love the direction we're going here because, as they're calling people forward and, finding the right people, getting those people to talk to each other. I think that the piece that for our audience that we have to continually remind them of is that you need to ask. They get so scared in asking those 100 people that are on their list to buy from them, to tell other people, to, or even to tell them more about themselves in a way that's useful to them. So can you give us some tips or some next steps that they could do to kind of serve up the ask?
Yes. Okay. So this is actually perfectly ties into what I alluded to with using whatever feels authentic to you about what I'm going to share, because I do think it's important to keep this authentic to how you actually want to show up and how you show up for your business. But one of the things that can be really, really powerful in engaging your community is to make them feel like they're a part of it. If you start to ask in ways that don't feel as scary, so ask them to vote on which product you should launch next, what color the packaging should be. If you make them feel like they're a part of it from creation all the way to when you launch it, all of a sudden they're like, well, I helped design that jacket. Clearly I must buy it, right?
Yeah.
So I think
they're invested, but
they're like, is it my business now? Right? So number one is I think I really resonate with having a lot of fear around not wanting to annoy people, not wanting to be salesy. And we've really got to get over that. I say that with so much love to fully make the impact we're meant to make. Something that helped me was starting to make easier asks that didn't feel as scary, that enrolled people in what I was showing them and what I was doing. But then the other part is, I think the fear, and I get this, I'm going to use the example of promoting our event, different thing that I'm promoting, but you'll understand me when I say this. Really, the call to action for an event is, did you get your ticket yet? So just like you're saying, did you buy yet? Did you add to cart? Did you purchase the item? And it feels repetitive just to keep saying, hey, did you buy it yet? This is for sale. Hey, remember me? So instead, what if we thought of different ways to keep the audience excited to hear from us and see what we're doing? So for example, this is what we do for an event launch is we have like about a 9-month launch because we'll open tickets sometimes as early as January for a September event, anywhere from 6 to 9 months. And people are going to tune me out if all I do is show up and say, have you gotten your ticket yet? So instead, what we do is we create mini launches within a bigger launch. If you have an evergreen product that you want to keep people excited to hear about, how can you show that item, show your product in use in a different way that has people go, oh, well, I hadn't thought about it like that. Maybe I need it. So what we do, and then I'll relate it to a product scenario, is we break everything down into its own mini launch. we don't even we'll give the date, but we usually won't announce the venue until later. We make that a launch. Make a big deal out of like, here, let's take you on a little tour of the event. Imagine yourself here. We'll announce each speaker individually. We announce different, we always try to come up with different interactive things that people would get excited about and give that its own time in the spotlight instead of launching the event day one, having all the information on a sales page, and now we have nothing else to. I've heard this analogy used. It's like if you have children or have a pet, it's like a new rattle, a new toy that like they haven't seen before. It's the thing they're going to be most interested in, or sometimes the box that thing came in, right? So how can you take different elements of either the process of you making the thing that you sell, or it could be anything, launching a new, a limited edition things, something that gives the feeling of, ooh, this is fresh and new, and I haven't seen this before. It actually engages people's brains differently because it's the novelty factor. So if you can think of different ways to make the whole process of you coming up with the idea, launching it, showing us behind the scenes, you can show that product in different ways that isn't just you showing up and saying, have you bought it yet? But the subtlety, and you can include a call to action in showing it in a different way. So when we're doing these mini launches, we're always reminding people of the next deadline that we're pushing them toward. But I think that also helped me feel less afraid because I felt so repetitive when I was just saying,
Right.
Did you buy it yet? Did you buy it yet?
Yeah, like, da-da, this is coming. And they keep going. Actually, I've seen a few of our students do this on social and in our community. So I'll just relate it to product. For example, you have a bag line coming out and you're letting everyone know the spring collection is coming. But at first you tease out the colors. And so you say, these are, a little snippet of the color, but you don't even tell them what bags it's coming in, but then you show the colors and then you're like, and then excited, you show the color a little bit bigger, you kind of show a palette. So like that would be what you're saying. At first, it might be a color launch. Then you might say, okay, we've got a new style coming or a mini version of this bigger style coming. Which bag do you think it is? And then all of a sudden you reveal like the bigger bag is now in a mini size. And then you show the colors, and a third launch would be now those bags are matched to the colors and they actually get to see the product in the two colors. And then there's finally the big reveal of the entire spring collection. And they've been on this journey with you for, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months. It depends on how long you've been taking them on this journey. And then they're finally like, yes, they've been waiting, you've been dangling the carrot, and then they're excited. Like you said, they feel like, what is this, my line too? Because I helped tell you whether I liked this color or that color. And, or I told you which one I wanted the mini version of. And I want you all to realize is that you can feed to your community and your audience the two choices you want them to pick between. So let's say you have, 2 bags and you're bringing them both out in a mini. You can show those 2 bags and say, which one do you want to see in a mini? And then you release them later and say, both of them are in minis, right? So you get to kind of guide their selection, but you're teasing out where you want them to go. Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com.
Yeah, when Jacqueline was first giving that example, so you don't have to show the whole thing. You could show the little corner. They don't need to know what it is. It's just a little teaser. I did this actually in our Instagram stories. My daughter had, to take a stuffed animal to school.
Oh, we're going back to the squirrel?
Yeah, the squirrel, the raccoon. And so we named the stuffed animal Nuts. Okay. So she takes it to school. He's been a squirrel. She's owned him for a while. He sleeps with her. And all of her friends at school, she's in first grade, they said, no, that's not a squirrel. That's a raccoon. And so she comes home and she's like, Nuts is a raccoon. All my friends said he's a raccoon. I said, no, some squirrels just look different. Let's do a poll on Instagram and see what people say. So I guided it. I thought I did, but people are not getting the hint, let me tell you. I showed them the tail because the tail is clearly a squirrel one because we cannot rename this thing. She needs it to be a squirrel. Okay. So now I've swayed it enough where I think that I've guided it in enough, but it's the same sort of thing, right? You can do that secretly too, because it's a secret from her where it's like, oh, okay. This is
you want her to you want her to know it's a squirrel. So everyone says it's a squirrel.
Because she's invested now and she wants to know that is indeed a squirrel and its name matches and all those things. So if you have a color that is going to be a hit, right? And it's going to be the periwinkle that's going to come out, then you start swaying it towards that. You surround it with objects that go with periwinkle. You pair it with a, not so beautiful color that that your audience doesn't like, that sort of thing. So you're swaying this thing, and so you could do it that sort of way, but we're just having fun with it really. And that's the opposite version where you're swaying it. And then Jacqueline's was, you end up coming out with two and you say, we actually came out with two because these were our two top winners. And then you give them a coupon or whatever it is, or a special offer for each of the ones, the raccoon and the squirrel.
Mm-hmm. And I already want to buy both just based on that story.
Right.
And I think that's the mistake is so often we're in our work and we're not documenting and taking people along on the journey. So to us, it feels like finally my launch has arrived. Why aren't you all buying it? But to your audience, if they haven't seen and followed this journey, it's new to them. They need to see it probably multiple times before they're ready to buy. What if you were already planting those seeds that they're going to want this in their closet, in their home, whatever it is along the way, such that when it drops, and then if you're doing a good job creating urgency and having different deadlines or promotions around the launch, then it's a natural, yes, I knew I wanted to buy the moment I launched it. And it can feel like a failure if people don't buy it right away, but they just haven't seen it enough. They weren't along on the journey with us along the way. And that's such an easy thing to do. It's just start documenting more of the process.
You're saying that people don't buy the second they see it? You posted it?
My stuff, I'm sure it sells out right away, all three. No, but it's true. I've had those moments where I'm like, wait a minute, why? It's crickets, right? Cue the cricket noise right now. But I've learned over time, it was really a disservice to them not to take them along on the journey. And then it didn't feel to me like selling. Or what felt inauthentic about sales that I was rejecting was actually just I had to find my authentic way to do it. And I love enrolling people in the story and the journey with me. Like I said, I can be very excited about the smallest thing. And I leveraged that. And I would be like, oh my gosh, we just got it could be a component for maybe you're getting new, I have a friend who makes gorgeous handbags and she freaked out one day about the gold hardware because usually it's silver on her bags. And I was like, dang, now I need to buy one because it's got the gold hardware she was so excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've bought the same backpack in black, one in gold and one in silver hardware. So thank you.
We all
Lindsey.
have done that.
Just didn't know we needed it.
Yeah.
I love actually that you use the example of event. I think that when you're selling a product and you're launching to it, you need to think of it as an event. It has a hype around it, a hook around it. You spoke about speakers that you showcase, but a lot of times when people are dropping in a product, they have the social proof as well. They have the influencers. They have the people that are, buying right then and there. They have the wait list. They have the loyal customers. They have all these things. And it feels like a big event, like people are buying into that event. And it comes in a way of just an entire experience. So I think that really understanding that from even for all of you that are listening, flip it to make it feel like an event. Because a lot of times, especially out of 2020 and 2021, every year is hard at this point, that it feels that we need that connection. We need that experience. And that's what ultimately people are spending their money on, is being a part of something because they're, in the world and feeling overwhelmed by all the hard things in life, so giving them a piece of that too.
And even if it's an event for your, two stuffed animals and your mom and your sister, like you have to start somewhere,
They marry those stuffed animals to each other. So I'm serious when it's serious business around here.
But I'm just saying like, and you're saying you could do this with a small audience, but we literally, the three of us, we all had to start somewhere. Mina and I didn't start with an audience. When we launched our very first product, it was to, we had, 800 people max, 1,000 followers. Like it was nothing. And when we launched our product businesses, that was without the idea of social media. Like we had to go in other ways. So I want you all to realize, and like what Lindsey teaches her students in her community is, there's this idea of maximize it in community. And when you're in community with other people, those could also be your first customers. Lindsey, do you, in terms of, because that's a superpower of like bringing people together, connecting people. Not all of us are like you, it's a gift. Do you see that as a new sort of pathway to, let's call it organic marketing for people, where partnerships and collaboration are another way to grow their businesses?
Definitely. And I think it was heightened by the fact that the last 2 years, we've all been through this collective trauma, really, of feeling more disconnected than ever. And not only do you have a powerful opportunity, I think people are valuing more and more like the experience of a tangible good. I am already thinking about like, where do products fit within what we've built? Because I really am one of those people who loves to have a tangible physical good and experience with a brand. But when you pair that with, I think if we look beyond, goes all the way back to the beginning of this conversation about, having this mindset of abundance, of, being better when we're in community. I think there's so many collaboration opportunities that product-based businesses specifically might be missing or just not seeing or thinking about. I mean, as simple as we just came through the holidays, like pairing up and doing gift guides where you're promoting, 5 other really aligned products to your audiences, or, you could do that physically on your website, link to other businesses that are linking back to yours. If you think about the power of what if there were a handful of other businesses, you created your own mini mastermind and you really thought about how can we leverage what we have, whatever size community we have, to help everyone grow. I really think that's the new normal of going forward and doing business. And it's time that women supporting women became more than just a hashtag. It's time that just became how we operate, and realizing that when we come forward with that intention, that pure intention to lift others up, it's just going to come back to us tenfold. So have you seen, I'm curious because I do love the product space. Are there creative ways people have done this within your community?
They're always partnering up. I think one thing that we're even seeing, just with fellow in our small business directory, there's everybody in the food category collaborated on a reel, and they did a big push to that. The way that I'm seeing that also, and Jacqueline and I have talked about this, is even in retail, like general retail is being changed too, having pop-ups that are coming up and having like a co-space. So even people feeling like they want that experience, like what you said, that they feel disconnected and they want to feel something in their hands. So even if it was to, not traditional wholesale where you're going into a boutique, but it could be a pop-up in the boutique, or it could be in a space that a commercial realtor can't even rent out. I've seen things pop up even in there. We see even with bigger brands like Lululemon, we have a pop-up right now actually where I live. So really thinking about that too. I think one of the things that you do so well is that you really introduce people to the idea of connection and having that be like what you said, the new normal, right? And I think that is something that we're starting to see too is, when Jacqueline and I first started, it was kind of like a novel thing. Like you met on the internet, like that seems so scary, and now it's like, everybody's meeting on the internet. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Like this partnership seems scary because people even are like, what? You met somebody on the internet or you're connecting with somebody on the internet? Like, can you speak a little bit about that too?
I was just on a call with our community yesterday, and a woman, I was just so grateful for her question because it was like, oh yeah, there was a time where I was afraid of that too. And she said, I don't want to be that weirdo who's sliding into DMs and such and such. And she's like, what's your advice? And I said, well, you're not going to like it because I am that weirdo who slides into DMs. And I think first and foremost to realize that your people, meaning if you're craving connection, even with other business owners, maybe it's with other people within the Product Boss community, you're feeling like you haven't taken the initiative to reach out and make some more personal connections within the bigger community, your people probably want to connect too. And yes, I've been ghosted. Yes, I've had those messages where you can see they read it, but they never answered. But I think that the way I always frame it is, okay, if I want to connect, and I'm actually far more introverted than most people would think, given that I can have extroverted tendencies and I love community, it has taken work for me to grow the confidence to put myself out there. And I had to realize that, especially when I was starting my first business, I actually came from the construction world. I sold carpet, tangent. So there weren't not many people in that industry that were the kind of people I knew I wanted to connect with. Like you said, the 5 I wanted to surround myself with. And I remember crying to my husband one day, and I just love sometimes how, our partners or, people who know us can just kind of call it out in a blunt way. And he's like, what are you doing about it? If you want to connect, what do you think they're going to show up at your doorstep? And I was like, well, could they? I mean, that would be nice if there was DoorDash for female friendships. And so I had to just start. I just started to be that weirdo who would give someone a compliment, genuinely engage with their stuff, ask if they would be open to connecting and being clear what you mean by that. I think what I found I've had the best success with is give someone a compliment. That goes a long way, right? What do you love about them? What do you appreciate about the way they show up? And then say, if you'd ever be open, I'd love to schedule maybe a 20-minute Zoom connection. You could share for a few minutes what you're doing. I could share what I'm doing, and we could talk for a few minutes to see if there's any synergy to collaborate or support each other. If nothing else, we walk away having made a new friend. So not being vague about it, like, oh, hey, let's connect sometime. Just saying, hey, I'd love to get to know you. It's like in the dating world, if someone is like, if they're interested in you, just ask me out. So just start asking people out. I'm going to tell you how to pick up girls.
I mean, Mina and I always felt like we missed out on the whole like online dating. And when we met each other, we swiped right.
Right, right.
That's
yes.
the right way.
But I will tell you that, it took me saying yes to Jacqueline's date and and then Jacqueline asking, right? Because she tells a story of how she heard about me on a podcast. It pinged her ear. She knew that I could potentially help her with Amazon, and she did the work to seek me out. I also did the work to say yes. I definitely, I will tell you, was getting a lot of DMs asking people.
She's quite popular online.
No, a lot of people were swiping right.
A lot of people.
So basically, there's a bunch of people that are like, can I pick your brain?
Don't say that.
Yeah.
No,
don't say that.
Don't say that.
And so with being an introvert and, feeling like, oh, I'm not sure. And again, like I said, back then, it wasn't a normal thing. Not really. There's only just starting to be like this idea of the coffee chat,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of was like where I was at, that I thought, okay, well, sure. I guess, people are kind of doing that now, I guess, and so I said yes. So I think that be open to it, from both sides. So there's pursuing it, and then there's the receiving of it, and just it's how narratives and new things happen in the world, is that it takes both sides of people to be like, hey, that's just the new normal now,
Mm-hmm. I'm not one to ask for help either. So, hearing Mina and like going on, you won't see me in Facebook groups. I'm very hard. Like I get distracted. So, getting into this group, really my purpose in that group, it was through, was that really it was a connection with her because I wasn't hanging out in chats. But I think, and what you were saying about that compliment, offering the compliment, is some of the biggest people we've had on our podcast, we've landed because we genuinely liked them and gave a genuine compliment. So it was like, wow, I see that like you're like this incredible investor. It's so inspirational. Our community would love to hear from you.
So even with no
you know,
intention behind it though, like we gave those compliments freely anyways, because we
yeah,
genuinely like them.
Because we normally like follow, let's say, and then eventually, and then, like bigger influencers, how like they'll like the good ones, the ones that really know how to use social media to grow, they'll actually respond to a lot. There's people out there that like you'll never hear from. But so the ones that are using social media with intention, they do, send back a heart or like a thank you every so often. So engaging with people like that and then giving them a real compliment and then making whatever the ask is. So whether it is like, I'd love to send your daughter like these, I don't know, stuffies that I make, or because it depends. It depends on if you're looking for community to just become friends with somebody, which Mina and I did, and even us, or it's something where there's some sort of ask or a collaboration with another small business. A lot of small businesses will be open. And then there's the bigger stuff where you're thinking, how do I reach someone with a bigger audience and will they want? So I think it's about being authentic and realizing we're all real human beings. Like influencers are just like us, So it's just being authentic and connection. And you can't be, if you're awkward, you're awkward, and you'll get the people who love you and the people who think you're hilarious. And there's going to be other people who don't think you're that funny. And,
I
God
love
be with them.
fellow awkward people so much. And that's such a great point, I think, and also to realize this is full circle even to how we all connected, because at one time, Lori Harder was someone just on the internet that now is one of my best friends, but that friendship has turned into so many other connections. And that started never by asking her something, but paying attention to what she was doing and how what I built might be able to serve her and help her. So realizing that anyone you want to connect with, they've got goals too. And what do you have that could possibly be of value? This is why building community is actually really valuable as well, because then you have a platform you can offer people you might want to connect with. But at the end of the day, it's knowing that at the end of the day, we are all human, but everyone has something that they want or need or have a goal. And you could possibly, if you're paying attention, you could be someone who fulfills that, whether or not you have the same size audience or any of that. But it's being intentional with that ask when you make it.
Oh, I love that so much because they are a human, right? And I think that for the flip side of that too, that just goes to show you, and that just validates and reinforces for all of you that if they were to not respond, and because they do have their own world with their own goals, it has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. It's probably because they're really busy. It's probably because they have to pick up the kids. It's probably all these different things, So get it into your kind of your head that we're opening you up to this idea, but it does not guarantee anything. And you have to, and if it's a no, like we had said earlier about when you're reaching out, sliding to the DMs, which I don't know if people like, I think that's starting to get a bad connotation or something, like Lindsey said, she had gotten a lot of no's at one point, that you don't take it to heart and you just keep going because it usually has nothing to do with you.
I mean, to be clear, I actually do take it really personally at first. And that's just being honest, but it's worth it enough. Then I have I use my personal development tools, but I just get it for those of you that might be really scared or it feels really personal, like rejection. It's really good. It's like weight training for your people pleasing. Just get out there and get rejected a couple times.
We had a conversation yesterday where I was like, Mina's like, I don't care. And I was like, oh, I care so deeply.
I care so deeply.
But it just depends on how you approach stuff. And it could be a not right now. But I think it's the idea of of making, just taking that step forward into the uncomfortable world of whatever. And here's something that I've learned from this podcast community, because, the thing about growing a podcast is you get on other people's podcasts. That's just how it started. That's how we started. We had, like I said, no audience. It was like just asking everyone if we could be on their podcast and vice versa. And, but the cool thing about this community, when you find the people that are your people, there's this exchange of how can I help your community? And then same thing, the same question is asked back, right? That we're in service of each other's communities, of each other's goals. And it's very much just like collaboration sort of situation, because especially in our podcasting world, Mina and I have podcasts with tons of other product-based business coaches. there's a crossover. We help each other in a different way. You have a ton of product bosses in your powerhouse and your 6-figure lab and just in your community. And it's the idea of we can all help people at different times in their paths. And it's that crossover because none of us just have one person that we listen to. Like all of you listen to many podcasts or have signed up for different courses and stuff like that. So I think when you are making asks, it should be you should reciprocate it. Is that the right word? Reciprocate it, where it's
Law
like
of reciprocity.
Yeah. It's like, and how can I help you? How can I help you? I'll do this. And how can I help you? And I think if we approach it like that, it doesn't feel like a take. And I think that's probably with Mina, because I got the final rose of all the ladies, but it was sort of this back and forth. So it was like, hey, I need to figure out how to liquidate my product on Amazon, but then vice versa. I don't know. Maybe I was talking to her about our 2-year-old kids, or, it went back and forth. So it wasn't just like, and can you help me with this?
I don't know if I actually approach it that way. It wasn't like, I think it was because, so I did do like coffee chats with a lot of people. And I think that in this world, you meet people at different seasons of your life and you just connect with them differently, So with Jacqueline, it's probably like a spark, like when people fall in love or whatever, there's like some people stand out to you, So I think that some people just get along with each other better. So with the two of us, we became very fast friends, and we, we had kids that were the same age. We got each other's humor. We
did a podcast with another set of people that we thought we were all going to be so funny, by the way, Lindsay, like, could we think we're hilarious? We did not land like them and us. Like it did. We were like, that was really
miss, and so it just goes to show you that there's certain people in this world you connect with better and people that you don't. So I don't know if I really thought of it that, I just think our relationship or our conversations were better. They stimulated me more. I had a ton of applicants for my time. No, I'm just kidding.
She's the best bachelorette I've ever met.
That's so funny. I literally talk about that. How I hired she was my first hire, but now business partner is I was going back and forth between the two final candidates, and my husband's like, well, what are you going to pick? And I said, you know what? If I gave the rose, if this were the Bachelor rules and I gave the rose to the other girl, I'd always think about Hannah. And now we're happily ever after too. So just right there, you find your people who have your same humor. I actually want to say this too, as you were sharing that, Mina. So there were definitely seasons in my business building where I was in a connection mode. I was in a yes mode. I was saying more yeses and being more forward. Right now, and maybe you're having seasons like this too, I get asked to connect with people who I really do want to, but it's not a season right now where there's space for that. So knowing, number one, that it's never personal when you get a no, but find the other people that are really in a building and connecting phase. Find those people because they're out networking. You could go to, if there's events, when events come back in your area, you can go and buddy network together. I really relied on that. And I didn't worry too much once I, finished falling over the nose and the rejection. My feelings were hurt, but I remembered that there were people who were in a similar stage as me, and that it really helped me to break down also this belief that, if I could just connect with that one person, or maybe for those of you listening, if this one influencer would share my product, it would totally change everything. You're the only one who's going to change your business ever. Mm-hmm. There's no one person who has all your answers, or if you could just get in proximity to them, it would change everything. I think the times where I got no's, or I felt like if I could just get this person to notice me, it was really teaching me that lesson to take full responsibility. There's no one else who's going to take responsibility for our businesses. And that has changed everything because it really put me in the driver's seat for my own success.
So good.
So good.
And mic drop.
Yeah.
Smart and funny. Hallelujah. Can you believe it?
I mean, you are she's the whole package. Jacqueline, take a seat. We got a new girl in town.
I'm married. Sorry, ladies. Taken off the market.
Darn. Oh, God. So
it's like Lindsey, sister-wife at this point.
No, really. We'd really be very helpful.
This went weird, but I'm down. I mean, I think this is really, our people are going to get this.
Does your husband, I know that I've seen you do a mastermind together and stuff. Is he in the space as well? Or do you guys is he an entrepreneur?
So he, up until this year was not. He's just now launching some something this year, and it's really fun to watch him go through all the fear in the beginning stages, because I can just so relate. But he's always been a big part of any decision, but he doesn't have an official role in Powerhouse Women other than security guard at our events.
Amazing.
Self-appointed security guard.
Self-appointed.
Self-appointed. Yes.
I was just curious because the three of us, we're married, and then, it's nice. And I'm sure a lot of you out there too, it's nice to find community to talk about the similar things with other people. Because my husband can tell you all sorts of things about fashion. Like he knows about marking and grading and all the things that people don't know about. Like you said, components. And I was like, yes, handbag lingo. But they are life partners in romantic ways and that sort of thing can't necessarily always be there for us in the ways that we need them to be, or they don't necessarily want to be, or they're not ready to talk about like why your email list isn't growing. They can't even support us in that. So I think it's important to find, going back to the idea of community, find people who speak the same language, that are at the same journey, on the same path as you, at the same place as you, because I'll tell you that sometimes I joke, Mina saved our marriage, because at some point he was like, my husband likes to fix things, and it's like, complaining about client work or whatever. And he couldn't help. And so it took me finding a community of other women running businesses in similar struggles, having young children, to kind of help open up my eyes to like other possibility and to talk to, and then also to celebrate our wins with. So
yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that though, because I don't want people to think that, I actually work with Jacqueline is my one partner. And then I have my husband in my other business. So I have him as a partner. And I will tell you that the relationship dynamic is really different, especially, we talk about the kids and we have the other business and that sort of thing. And I think that for all of you that you could keep that in mind, because, I think that no matter, even if your husband works with you in the business, you should definitely seek out female friends that are at the same level, that are doing big things. They just deliver a different thing in your brain, And so while my husband and I, he's high achieving, he's so smart, he's pretty funny, not as funny as me. All the things, like, I do think that it's just a different relationship, right? So I think that everybody deserves and is worthy of really strong female friendships. This is something that's never talked about. When we were young and in high school, it was almost like you need to be part of the clique or something like that. And then it was like you stopped making friends or something, because you went off to college, and then you had mom friends. I guess that was okay. But I do think that people should always have, women have this special gift of being strong and nurturing and all these different things. And I think that the benefits of that type of relationship is much different than even if your partner, or your husband or your, works with you. So whatever that looks like, your wife, I think that having other people outside your business that you can partner with and collaborate with, that still adds so much value and dimension to your life.
So true. We joke. So Lori and I, now that she's spending part of the year in Scottsdale, we run together twice a week, and our husbands get kind of annoyed at us if we skip runs, because then we're both verbal processors. Then we want to verbally process with them. They're like, Elliot will look at me. He'll go, you haven't run with Lori in a while, have you? You have a lot of words. It's a lot of words right now.
She actually left me a voice message this morning, and I was like, I'm a verbal processor. I like the verbal processing, like, because it's true. And, it's just, some of us need to get it out in words. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's nice to find those people that get it out the way that you need to, or don't, So that's so funny that your husband's like, okay, you need to go get your person. Go back.
Run. He's like, all of a sudden I'm asleep and he's putting on my running shoes. I'm like, what are you doing?
Gotta go. You got to go, Lindsay.
Not this morning. You got to get going.
I need my quiet time with my coffee. So I think the point of all of this for all of you, and I mean, Mina and I have worked really hard to build a community of fellow product-based business owners. Lindsay has a community of just Powerhouse Women, and there are product bosses in there as well, product entrepreneurs. And so I think the three of us really want to say, go find your community. Yeah. Find the people that will support you and water your seed and help it grow versus, pulling it out and being like, nope, not going to happen, not going to work. Cause those aren't the people.
What is this, a seed? That's the usual reaction.
So Lindsay, tell our community, how they can connect with you, about Powerhouse Women, the 6-figure school, and all the things.
Yes. Well, I just cannot thank you enough. Like I said, I think what we really recognized in each other was just that common desire to see women win in business and to generate community around it. So I feel like anyone who's in the product boss community would just like be such, you probably have just as refined sense of humors as all of us. So you're more than welcome. And we have a live event. We have a membership community, which is just a beautiful place, especially if you are brand new and just need that support. And it's all virtual. It's called the Girl Gang. We do have matching jackets, just putting it out there.
I love it.
There really is a Girl Gang jacket. But then, there's other opportunities throughout the year. Six Figure School opens in the fall. And that's just a really beautiful step-by-step plan combined with the community element to make sure that you get over those critical humps where you probably are going to want to quit and you have like the next step in front of you to focus on. So I'm just so grateful that we're all in each other's world, and I can't wait to just watch the women in our communities grow this year.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lindsey.
Thank you for being here and listening all the way through the Product Boss podcast. If you love our show and it has helped you in any way in your business, would you mind doing 2 things for us? Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. Reviews help other product entrepreneurs know that this is the place to be to grow their businesses and realize that they're not alone. And we know that you all know that a 5-star and honest review helps you sell more products to more people. So you know that your reviews help us reach more listeners around the world. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and we are all about helping each other in the Product Boss community. We are all in this together. We would be so appreciative of you if you could take the time right now to subscribe, leave a review, and even share this episode on social or someone you know so we can impact more lives. And remember, subscribing means that you will get notified each time we release a new episode so you never miss a thing. You have helped us grow and climb into the top 10 of all marketing podcasts, and together we can keep climbing. Thank you, friends. And remember, there is room at the top for all of us. This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge and Small Business Shopping Directory. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business online or offline. So head to shop1in5.com to take the pledge. And friend, while you are there, check out and shop from hundreds of small businesses in the Small Business Shopping Directory. It's the go-to directory to discover, support, and shop small businesses all in one place. Head to shop1in5.com.